All right, in this video, I'm going to do some maintenance on this Kohler toilet. Basically, it is periodically not filling. You can see it's filled up now. But what was happening was about once a month, you'd flush it, nothing would happen because the float would be staying down. It wouldn't fill. Then you'd have to shake the float and then it would start filling. That started happening multiple times a week, so I'm going to remove the float cap assembly and try and flush out the system. So obviously I got the lid off the toilet and I'm going to turn off the water first. Now I'm going to disconnect the float from the float cap assembly. It just clips into place. It might not be necessary to do that, but I did do it. And all I'm doing is unclipping the gray screw piece from the lever arm of the float cap assembly. And what you need to do is push down on the red cap and turn it counterclockwise, and then it pops off. I also found it necessary to hold the vertical black piece to keep it from twisting, but generally speaking, to remove the float cap assembly, it's similar to a medicine bottle. You press down on the red cap and turn it counterclockwise. And with the float cap assembly removed, I'm just going to remove the rubber gasket that is inside the float cap assembly and make sure that there's no damage to it, as well as make sure that there's no contamination like any calcium deposits. This one looks good to go. I'm going to reinstall it, just making sure that it's in the same orientation and that pin is going through the center. And then I'll test it a few times, make sure that the float arm assembly is working properly. If there was damage to that rubber gasket, I would just go and buy a new float cap assembly. Okay, now moving on from the float cap assembly. Like I said, I think it's good to go, no issues with it. I'm now going to flush out the valve unit. So I'm just going to take a cup, put it over the valve unit so water doesn't spray to the ceiling, and I'm going to turn the water on. And that's just going to flush the valve and make sure there's no contaminations in it. I'm going to let it run for about 30 seconds. I actually do it twice, but again, you just want that cup so that the water doesn't hit your ceiling. And then once it's flushed out, turn off the water. Now I'm going to reinstall the float cap assembly. And obviously installation is going to be the opposite of removal. And of course I'm in a very small bathroom, so you're going to see my shoulder here, but put it in place and then give it a quarter turn clockwise so that it ends up in approximately the same position you had it in when you started. I did remove that rubber hose, so I'm going to reinstall that, and then obviously I'm going to reconnect the gray screw piece onto the float cap assembly because, like I said, I removed that as well. It just clips into place, no big deal. Once everything's put back together, I'm going to turn on the water and let the toilet fill up. Now, I found that things moved around a little bit when I removed the float cap assembly. It's not as easy to get off as maybe other videos show, or even this video shows. It did take a little bit of effort to get it off and put it back on. So things moved around a little bit. And what I found was that the toilet was sort of overfilling. It wasn't overfilling before, but you could see on the toilet that the water is about to overflow that center black pipe. So obviously if that overflows, it just sort of continuously runs. So if you look, there is a water line marker in the toilet. So if you just zoom in here with the camera, you can see it says water line in yellow, and then has two lines with little hash marks in it. So obviously you want it to be in there, which it is now. And I achieved that by adjusting the float screw. That's the gray piece that I disconnected, and it connects to your float arm. You can see that it says minus. So if you want less water in your tank, you're going to turn it counterclockwise, and on the other side it says plus. So if you want more water in your tank, you're going to turn it clockwise. So if you're continually running because it's overflowing that black central pipe, you're going to turn it to the minus, so counterclockwise. And what that does is it pushes the float lower, which is going to cause the float to rise earlier, pushing the lever in the float cap assembly up sooner and turning off the water. So obviously I've turned the screw, moved it down. Ultimately, the aim is to have it finish filling at that full water line. So you may need to play around with that screw. So anyway, I end up solving two problems here. First problem was that frequently the toilet would be flushed and it wouldn't refill. So hopefully flushing out the valve unit and the valve cover and the float cap assembly has helped that. And then, like I said, once that was done, I was having some water level issues. And if you're having a Kohler toilet that's constantly running, you can adjust the water level by turning that gray screw at the top, either by hand or with a screwdriver. And like I said, turning it towards the negative will lower that water level and make sure it doesn't overflow that center pipe. Anyway, hopefully this helps somebody. Thanks for checking out my video. Don't forget to like and subscribe.